Hello, Something Guys and Gals. This is Something Guy 912, and we're back to doing odd architecture within regards to the Half-Life series, taking a quick break from both my Tales from the Borderlands project and the brief stint of episodes covering the maps of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games with D1_Canals_09. Most of this map should be quite brief as it's mainly a chase sequence with the Hunter Chopper, but I've surprised myself with what I could find with other maps in the campaign thus far. Let's not split any more hairs and get into it. Alright, and now we are properly in game, and as I said before, there's probably not going to be a whole lot to cover because this section is the initial Hunter Chopper chase sequence. So, starting off, we go to the right here, and we have this small little causeway, and as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty cohesive. I don't think there's anything way off the ordinary here. Apart from these boards, but again, the water level kind of fluctuating a lot probably would stand the reason that these would be here, whether or not the water should be at a higher or lower elevation. And then we move on. Obviously, the Hunter Chopper's here, but obviously it doesn't care about us. And then we have another sequence of the water level being very inconsistent with the nature of the elevation of things. So we have these two kind of like side dock areas, and we have more of these overused dock plank boards things and whatnot, which would be all well and good, but then you have these boats here, like this fishing boat. I think this is a fishing boat. Kind of looks like one. And the size of it would suggest that the water should be not like about here, but probably much like lower, like here, where this like line, this scratched line is. And maybe that is supposed to be the case, but I really do not know. So again, it's very odd to like figure out and discern the exact water level of this portion of the canals. And then more to the point too is this side of the dock, as we're going to call it, has fences on one side and these small rails on the other. But then on this side, there are no rails. There are just these little anchors for tugboats and whatnot. So a little bit odd to me that one side has rails and the other does not, despite the fact that both have dock planks to suggest that, you know, boats do park along these dock sides. So we will move on. We're going to move on a lot because most of this, again, not really much for me to comment on in terms of their inconsistency or just oddity. We have this little side here. Again, nothing really out of the ordinary. Obviously, this bridge is not textured on the top here, but a lot of the bridges in... usually a lot of the bridges that are basically without, like, outside of the player's own periphery are going to be not textured on the top here. And then we come across this section where we go underneath these series of pipes. Now, I don't know what the purpose of these pipes were for. Now, it is interesting is, like, you have the normal water here, and then in here, the water becomes toxic. So, I was thinking that maybe these pipes were here to filter the bad water from the good water, but because the pipes are broken, there's no way to separate the two. But as far as what these pipes served is just another thing altogether. So we're going to just keep moving on. We go over here into this small little, I guess, reprieve from dealing with the Hunter Chopper. And we have more of these gaps. But interestingly, we have gaps that have the meshes, unlike the other gaps in the other maps that did not have meshes up here. Just interesting how they pick and choose when to have the meshes up here or not. And then immediately to the left, we have a Lambda cache. And this Lambda cache is very interesting because I would really want to know how the rebels got these planks up here in this fashion. Because obviously, again, the only reason that it's designed this way is for you to be able to run it over with the airboat, so you can get the crates and whatnot. But obviously, its design would be pretty impractical as like a little stash. And it also uses this very clean plywood texture that I've brought up again. Moving on, we go over here into this small gap with another series of pipes that you have to kind of navigate into this wider pipe area. Now, there's a lot of things to comment about this little section here, which is basically the last section of the map, if you can believe that. First off, we have this crane. It's obviously not fully textured, but it does jut out in such a way as to be used around this section, but I don't know what it would have been used for if there was supposed to be a series of pipes that go from one end to the other. And then more to the point is these series of pipes, their design is much thinner than the opening of this pipe, but if this pipe was to align with this pipe, they would essentially have to expand outward and be angled in such a way. And if it's supposed to be this single straight of pipes, would mean that this crane would basically be useless. And then one more thing to consider is we have a lot of these weird shelves here, or platforms. I don't know what these are for, but if you remember, I covered D1 underscore canals 06, and there was also these small little shelves here that had paint buckets on them, and I had the insane theory that maybe they were used to paint the walls. So for all I know, these could have been used at some point to like paint the walls of this like industrial side of the canal lock. But beyond that, I really don't know what these are supposed to be used for, other than just, I guess, to make the area a bit more busy, I guess. And then with that, that is it. That is all that there is to cover of D1 underscore canals underscore 09. And that's it for D1 underscore canals underscore 09. And with that, another pause to these odd architecture videos while I finish up the tail end of my Tales from the Borderlands project, as it's nearing its close, and don't want any more deviations in the meantime. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you when that project has been properly uploaded.